committee forums. Today's topic is Norristown Schools, Safety, Past, Present, and Future. Now, a couple of brief announcements before we get into the topic. Mary Ellen DiGregorio, who I think most of you know, her daughter is here. She's supposed to be entertaining the children upstairs in the book reading section. So any of you parents that want to lose your children for a couple hours, unfortunately we've lost Mary Ellen right now.
I think she's trying to look for the Girl Scout.
Ah, okay. She's going to be doing storytelling, so hopefully she'll be back, and when she comes back, I'll let you all know, and then you can lose your children. And excuse me if I seem to be a little bit off the mark today, but I got up out of bed and I fell right back into bed. So I don't know what's going on, but my equilibrium is not there. I'm feeling sick and whatever. Please bear with me. Originally, we had scheduled a topic today on the Elm Street project, which consists of slated renovations to 64 homes in and around the East Elm Street to Markley Street block. Unfortunately, there was a report that was supposed to be coming out, and it was due, I believe, by around the first of the year. I'm told it still is not in. We did a last-minute switch, and this is the topic we have for today. We are hoping that sometime within the next couple of weeks or so, we can see a report from the consultants, at which time then we will schedule the topic for the next month's forum, which will be back here again on the 15th of February on the Elm Street project. And Mary Ellen, are we here to entertain children today?
Yeah, I was just looking for them. If they want to go upstairs with her, they can.
Okay, so any of your mothers who want to lose your children, this is Brianne, who's going upstairs. So the storytelling for the children. Okay, and before I get any further, a special thanks to Mary Ellen DiGregorio, who is president of the Homeowners Association and a member of the Norristown Initiative and part of the Civic Life Committee. And I am very glad to say probably my biggest supporter in these forums. And without her assistance over the last few months, we probably would not have had these forums due to my preoccupation with my other business matters at the time. Now, as to procedural rules of how we do the question and answers and how the forum operates for those of you who haven't been here before, I'm going to introduce each one of the panelists. We have a very, very large group here today. But each person will give a 5-minute or a brief introduction about who they are, their involvement with the schools, hopefully a view on safety, their perspective, and then we'll move on to the next. At that point, we'll probably have used up about an hour. Then we'll take a 5-minute break, and I am told by the library that they have another function after ours today. So my guess is we're probably not going to get any later than 12:30 today, and it is close to 10:30 now. After we come back from the break, each person can pose one question. One question. It's not one of those 3 questions in one. Okay, one question, and the idea of that is so that every person has a chance, if they'd like to pose a question, to pose a question. It's not a debate, it's not a back and forth conversation, it is a question for which they'll be given an answer. If time allows, we will then go around and do it a second time, and even a third time. And if Doris, if you still have questions, we'll still let you ask. Okay, as to our topic today, across the country over the last few years, we have seen streams of violence with a foundation in many cases in anything from bullying to depression to religious cults in the schools. Of late, even Norristown High has seen some newspaper coverage due to physical altercations both inside and out of the school. Hopefully, the emphasis is outside of the school rather than in. What I have personally observed as schools let out is the oftentimes large crowds of children on the way home from school, various ages, walking through town, littering, swearing, tying up traffic, playing games of chicken with cars, and fighting. Now, a question we have to ask, is this something that's been going on for years, and it's not something we need to be concerned about, it's just a phase? Or are these signs that we should be responding to as adults, because this could develop into something worse? Some, just what I've explained, is enough to be called worse. Now, why is this happening? Again, is this something new, or has this been going on for decades and we just haven't paid attention to it? Are the problems just something that happened in our schools, or is this a carryover into all the other communities around us? And does this happen in school, or does it just happen out of school? Also, in the last few years, we've seen a major influx of Mexican students in our schools where English is their second language. The question that has to be asked is, how is this group interacting with the other students in the schools? Is language a problem? Are they having difficulty assimilating into the community and with the other children? How is discipline handled today within the schools? Are students that are illegally gaining entrance to Norristown schools, say from Philadelphia district or whatever, the source of more of the problems in the school? What about truancy? Is that a problem? What is the security in the school? Do our school crossing guards do the jobs we expect them to do, regarding the children going to and coming back from school? Are we responsible for part of the problems that are ongoing with the schools, basically due to us lowering our standards, tolerating more, disciplining less? Do we need to import some of the standards of the past to correct some of the problems of the present? These are just some of the questions I hope to see that are addressed today and that will be part of our discussion. And hopefully we can have some more positive solutions for the future. Now, for our panel, I'm going to go down one at a time. Each person, again, as I said, will do a 5-minute introduction, and we'll go on to the next, and then we'll have a brief break, and then back to the question and answer period. Our first speaker will be Paul David Perry. He is the, what exactly are you?
I'm the student school board representative at the high school, as well as the student council president. I'm here today to give you a student's perspective. I'm here today basically to give you guys a student's perspective of safety at the high school. I was recently interviewed by the Times Herald, and one of the first questions the reporter asked me was, do you feel safe at school? And without question, I answered her, yes, absolutely. And I think it's important to realize that I personally don't believe that there's any students who feel unsafe in Norristown High School. I think it's a matter of perspective, and how you look at the school, how you look at the way security is run at the school. I think the teachers and administrators do a great job of disciplining the students, even though that's not really their job. I think they're there to teach, and that sort of has to take first priority. And recently, it hasn't. There's been a big focus on teachers cracking down the discipline code, and I think that's important. But at the same time, we need to focus on the fact that these people are trained to teach, and they're not trained to be babysitters or caretakers of children. Second of all, I see a big lack of respect at the high school. When you look at the school discipline code, you see words like courtesy, respect, communication, and I think these are some things that are definitely lacking among students at the high school. Respect in the manner that students don't come to school with a foundation of respect for their parents or for their parents themselves, for the teachers, and for their fellow students, and that's a big downfall in Norristown High School. Courtesy in the same way. They're not taught that general courtesy at home, so they don't bring that to school, and they don't treat each other that way. They don't treat their peers. They don't treat their supervisors that way, and that's a very big problem. Communication in the fact that they don't communicate the problems that are going through their heads during the day. We talked about the fact that a lot of fights don't happen all of a sudden. They build up over time, and students, they know it's going to happen. They just keep quiet about it, and if they just communicate to their adults and maybe even their peers, and someone can tell someone, and something bad can be prevented, perhaps. So I think these are some major points we need to focus on today, and hopefully I can help you do that.
Then we'll hear from Mary Custer. She has the distinct, I'm losing the word here, reputation, not reputation. You have the longest term in school.
Yes, I do.
How many years has it been?
16.
16
This is my 16th year.
Wow.
And last.
How many years have you been saying that?
I mean it this time. Yeah, I've said it before, but I do mean it this time. Yes, I am Mary Custer. I am a school board member, have been for 16 years. I'm not going to stand up, mainly because I can't. If you see the scooter behind me, that's my mode of transportation. But that too will pass, I hope. I've been a teacher, been a camp director, I've worked in a hardware store, I've worked in, Santa Claus, picture taking in King of Prussia, done all sorts of things. Coached hockey this fall with the high school team as a volunteer, bopping around on my scooter. That was neat fun, and it's so much fun to get with the kids, as opposed to the school board. I mean, I love my school board colleagues who are here, but it's really a lot of fun to be with the kids. And I wish I had more time and ability to do that. I've coached softball, I've been a Brownie leader, very active in all the parents clubs as my kids were growing up, the band, you know, typical parent things if you're a parent that is going to be involved. And my kids sometimes said, do you have to be so involved, Mom? Oh, well, yes, I do, because I'm going to know what you're doing. And especially with my son, if I didn't know the right question to ask, I probably wouldn't know the information. My daughter would come home and babble, but not my son. So these are a lot of things, but the first thing that you need to know for a school board member, the most important thing is school safety. If we don't have school safety, our kids can't learn, the teachers can't teach, and we have a very volatile situation on our hands. I believe we do have school safety. We talk about the discipline code. The elementary code is trying to teach these things, and right in it, it says they're going to teach good manners, getting along with others, self-esteem, accepting their self and others. If they don't accept themselves, they can't accept others. Listening to authority, and problem solving. And these all sound very good. You know, there was a time in our teaching careers where we weren't supposed to teach values. If you can't teach values, or you don't have values in your classroom, you have a zoo. Okay? So there isn't a teacher in the world that wasn't teaching values. They had to listen to the teacher. That's part of it. They had to listen to each other. I always said to my kids, and I was a physical education teacher, and I expected excitement and noise in the gym when they were having fun, when they were playing. But if I was speaking or one of the kids was speaking, I expected silence. And guess what? I got it. Because I expected it. And kids do. They live up to expectations. And that's very, very important. Gary mentioned some things in his opening. Walking behavior. Yes, we are as teachers, or as school board members, as the school, are responsible for the kids walking to and from school. But you must remember that we can't teach everything if the parents don't. So much of everything that we can do in the school, basically everything that we can do in the school, is dependent upon the parents. What they've taught the kids, what they expect out of their kids, and how they follow through them. So walking behavior, if the kids are not behaving as they're walking to and from school, yes. I know Joe's had to get on it many times with the kids from Stewart, because this is the largest group that walks. But it's parental behavior as well. ESL, the Mexican kids. We have about 100 different languages spoken in our schools. The state has just come down with new rules and regulations about the ESL kids, and they're even using a different acronym now, but most of us know it as ESL, or English as a second language. So that they are putting much more, we're having to do a lot more in terms of class size, in terms of classes, in terms of paperwork, but of course they didn't fund it. So what else is new? They gave us no money, but they're expecting us to hire all these extra teachers in order to do it. In addition, we have Spanish already in the schools from 4th grade on. So we need more people that can speak Spanish. So if you know of anybody that's fluent in Spanish, let us know. Discipline, I'm going to leave that to some of the people, the principals that are more involved in that. In my way of looking at it, yeah, we had a couple instances this fall. But I also have a thing that shows how our suspensions and expulsions have gone. In '98, total expulsions were 52. In 2001 and 2, they were 15. And this has been since the implementation of the new discipline code. And I think that speaks for itself. Kids have learned that to They better do what we say, or what they say, not us, but what they say. And I think it's working. Is there any school in the world that isn't going to have a problem with discipline? Of course not. Of course not. I went to a private school and I was no angel. But I found out in my study hall that if we sat in the front, which we did, the teacher put her glasses like this and looked at the back because she expected those were the kids that would cause trouble. So I sat in front. Security, we have the security in the high school, we have security in the other schools. We've hired aides at some of the elementary schools to watch for security. Is security going to be tight? You have, 1,700 kids at the high school and you have 5 or 6 security people. It's not tight, but we have cameras everywhere. So that, yes, it can be. And with the teachers and the other adults around, there's plenty of security. Crossing guards. I read in the paper that they used to have CPR and stuff like that. I don't know if they do now or not. I really don't know their training. Do we tolerate more? Gary said, are we tolerating more in the schools? I don't think so. I think we have a different type of child today. When many of us, probably most of us, went to school, our mothers were home, they were on top of it, the school was always right, whether I believe that or not. The teacher was always right. You did something in school and got in trouble, you got in trouble at home. Is that happening now? Not with everybody, no, it's not. And that's part of the problem. And again, it all goes back to the home. Do we need to bring in standards of the past? I don't think so. I think they're there. I think we're doing what we should be doing. Are we going to have incidences? Absolutely. Kids, hormones, all of those things. We'll bring it all together. But if Paul feels safe in school and Lisa feels safe in school, and I certainly feel safe when I'm in any building, and I can't even walk, so I think that we have excellent schools. Do our schools have problems? No more than any other school. Does our school produce great kids? Listen to this young man. He was at a state conference I was at, and let me tell you that he spoke at that, and the accolades that I got from, oh, that young man at your school is so good. Now, I don't want to blow up his head. It's already big. No. I mean, and we've had kids like this all the time that are great. Maybe 2% of the kids cause a problem. And that's what makes the newspaper. Not the other kids that are doing wonderful things, playing on teams, performing in plays, singing in the choirs, playing in the band. We just had one kid that's made the all-district, not district, it's bigger than that, the whole Eastern Seaboard choir from Washington to Maine. We have kids doing outstanding things all the time, but do you see them in the paper? Occasionally. You certainly see the sports teams. But go to our schools. If you haven't been in them, they're wonderful. The teachers care. They're creative. They're great places to be. Thank you.
Mary, for a person who came unprepared, quite impressive.
I told you I've been around a long time. I can talk forever.
Last time I heard someone come in saying that they came in unprepared, it was when I think Captain Rochette made an opening statement. I'm saying, uh-oh, we're going to get him out. And of course, I had to accuse him of running for an elected position after that.
Well, he should.
Okay, now, Hilda, or Hildy, I believe we owe you an apology. We misspelled your name.
Yeah, I get custard.
Dr. Jaffe is principal of the, NAHS Area High School, very good. And you're also on the disciplinary board. And that's probably the part we want to hear the most of.
And I will probably deflect a lot of that to Mr. Howell. But I will touch on it. Thank you. I'll stay away from your germs. I am really delighted to be here today because this is the kind of forum that allows us to freely examine the facts and the realities of student safety, things that are important to us. And it's a critical subject because to be effective in what we have to do, which is teach the children, they have to feel safe. They can't learn if they're not safe and supported. And we can't have quality education, which is what we strive for, unless everyone feels they're living in a safe environment. And we live there. I live there, it seems like 18 hours a day. Most of our students are there 10 hours a day because they're very, very active. Now, in regard to discipline, I want to just point one thing out. Discipline is different from punishment. Discipline is changing unacceptable behavior. Punishment is just the penalties, and we need to keep those separated. The Norristown Area Discipline Code, if I believe, you brought copies of that? That has the behaviors, the responsibilities, and the penalties, not just what you do if you do it wrong. And this discipline code, and as I said, Mr. Howe will probably get into this more thoroughly, was set up to ensure that everybody is treated fairly and equally. The code clearly defines the rules of the high school community. We operate under the secondary discipline code, secondary school discipline codes, and a few of the offenses are for secondary, meaning the high schools opposed to middle schools, because they are different ages and different things are appropriate. And they're the code we live by. And there are laws, but quite honestly, just like the laws of the land, they have to evolve based on societal changes. And they change based on experience and need. Now, for example, when I started teaching 29 years ago, if in my wildest dreams I ever thought that I would be carrying around in my handbag a teeny tiny telephone that would, without any wires or anything, connect me to anybody I wanted to, just about in the whole country, I would think that they were like talking about the Jetsons, because there was no way in the world I thought that was a possibility. And now, not only do I have one in my pocketbook, but most of our students have them, and they are a problem. But they have them, so our code evolves because of those things. Now, that may have changed, but one thing that has not changed is adolescence. Adolescence is a normal time for testing independence, questioning authority, trying on new ideas, new attitudes, and those of you who are parents of an adolescent, as I am, or was, a little bit older now, I don't have to tell you how the hormones fit into that whole thing, how one day they're one person, the next day you're not sure who the heck they are. And that is all a normal part of growing up. I can't begin to tell you there are never going to be angry situations amongst teenagers or altercations between students, either physical or verbal, because there will. There were back in Socrates' time, and there will be 200 years from now. That's the nature of growing up. One thing about the physical confrontations that may happen in school, and you can call them fights, school, and I've tried to express this, is a very safe place to fight. And the reason for that is they know we're going to intercede, and nobody's really going to get hurt. So a lot of the things that kids fight about have nothing to do with school. They come from their friends, their boyfriend. We have more boyfriend, girlfriend, Romeo, Juliet kind of issues. That's where they're coming from. And they do sometimes get physical. But we have to be firm, and we have to let them know that it's not only unacceptable, it's harmful. And we won't tolerate it, and that it can be dangerous. And as Mrs. Custer said, this is not unique to Norristown. This is true for every high school in the country and every home with teenagers. And quite frankly, Norristown Area High School has had fewer fights this past 6 years than and it's documented in our database, and everything goes in the database. We operate, a form is filled out, a disciplinary referral, it's acted upon, it goes directly in the computer, and it can't really be altered. I pulled out of the computer since 1988 what the facts and figures are, and they're over there. And we've had less fights and assaults than in the past 6 years. Now, this year, we had 2 incidences at the high school that got some attention, and it caused us to question some things. They both involved small little groups, 2 kids here, 3 kids there, but they took place in visible places. And I think everybody knows that when a lot of people see something, the when you witness something, you witness it through where you're located and how you see it, and you have your little piece of it, and it's not necessarily what actually happened. And that brings me to one of the topics that we talked about was going to be here today, and that's communication. And I think that's one of the most important things that came out of the whole situation of bringing this to a head this fall. I heard so many rumors. I heard so many versions of the same activities. I heard things shared by people who were acting as if they were there, but they weren't. We've all played Whisper Down the Lane. There's 12. If I whisper to Paul and it goes down the lane, or any person, it may not have what I said, and most likely won't. He will have a variation because that's how it works. That's how it works when you hear it, because you fill in the blanks of what you don't hear. Now, one thing is when facts get distorted, then we could lose our feeling of safety and security. And it proved to me this fall that, quite frankly, it is essential that the students at the high school and their parents know what's going on, especially those involving police activity. And the reason for that is it can be tremendously scary to look out the window and see a bunch of police cars running up to the building and not know what's going on. What we've done this fall, well, let me just say one particular situation. We call the police for assistance when we need them, and usually it's simply a precautionary measure. One time, within the past, I guess 4 weeks, we called for assistance, and 4 cars arrived. They weren't needed except for the one who we needed to take an individual out, and the others just left. But if I were a student sitting in a class on the 3rd floor and looked out the window and saw cars all lined up, I might think there's something really terrible going on. So what we've done this year to ensure that everybody knows the truth, inside and outside of the high school, we have sort of a rumor diffuser or a system for disseminating the facts. Whenever an unusual event or a police activity occurs, I get, immediately after it's resolved, I get on the PA and explain to the faculty and the students what happened. Plain and simple, this is what occurred. And briefly, just a little brief version. And then a printed version of that is available at the reception desk for anybody who wants to either pick it up or take it over to their parents, so that everybody is equipped with the same information. For years, the faculty and the staff at the high school have very successfully interacted with our students academically and behaviorally. They're still doing a tremendous job helping our teenagers grow into productive, active citizens. And as I think Paul said, and Mary said about the quote 2%. Statistically, 91% of our kids are in school at the high school from the first marking period. And 82% have not even had one disciplinary referral. That includes something that, as little as a detention, because that goes in the computer too. 81% haven't even had one little thing. So, just to close real quick, our first priority is always our children's safety, because we can't do our job without it. And we have a wonderful, wonderful school community filled with students who are eager to learn, who care about each other, and are looking to go out and make something of their world, because it will be their world.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we're going to hear from Mr. Howell. He is the principal of the Stewart Middle School and also a member of the disciplinary board for the middle school and elementary school.
High school, actually.
High school, I'm
He's
sorry.
chairman of it, has been for years.
Good morning, everyone. The first thing you should take from this is never follow Paul Perry, Mary Custer, and Hildy Jaffe on the same topic, because it leaves you nothing to say. I actually bring, I guess, 3 perspectives to a discussion on discipline in our schools. The first, and maybe most significant, is I'm the father of 2 kids who graduated from Norristown High School, one in 95, one in 99. So I do have a sense of the student's perspective of safety in our schools. The second is as the principal of Stewart, which I have been since 1979. So if we want to take a walk down memory lane, perhaps I'll be able to help you with that. And I can say to you that things aren't significantly different from 24 years ago. Some of the causes are, but the behaviors aren't particularly. The third perspective I bring is as the chairperson of the district discipline committee for middle school and high school. I brought copies of the discipline code and a sheet that summarizes the code. They're over on the table if anyone would like to pick one of those up. The discipline committee, again, covers the 3 middle schools and our 2 high schools. The committee consists of a principal, a disciplinarian, a teacher, and a parent from each of the schools, along with Dr. Dora, who is our pupil services director for the district. We meet 2 or 3 times a year. We review the code, we review student activity during that period of time, and the purpose of that is to make sure that the code reflects what's going on in our schools. The code dates back to 1995. It was an outcome of our was that 5-year plan? Strategic planning, which we did in the early 90s, and one of the areas identified in that process was discipline and safety. So from that came this initiative to put together a new discipline code. We did that over a year's time. That process involved parents, students, teachers, administrators, counselors, psychologists. Was presented to the board in '95. They adopted it and adopted this discipline committee at the same time, whose charge was to conduct a periodic review. Our goal in writing this goal was to create a document that all the constituents understood, so that when you look at it, it's very specific. It's something that a student can look at, a teacher can look at, a parent can look at, a disciplinarian, an administrator, and a school board member. And if we've done our job, all of those people can look at that thing and all come away with the same sense of, here's what our expectations are, and here's what's going to happen if you don't meet them. Our students kind of get a kick out of that. We teach the code at the beginning of every year. Every middle school and high school student takes a test on the code and must pass that test. So we retest students until they have. So we know, beginning of every year, our students understand the code. Parents sign off on the code. We send it home every year, and every parent returns a slip that says not only do they get it, but they read it. So we made sure that all the constituents have seen it, understand it, and our kids use it. You will hear kids say, "Ooh, he did it because our offenses are numbered. Ooh, he did a 207. He's going to get suspended." They know the code, they use it, and we believe that it is a document that is very helpful to the topic we're discussing this morning. So anything along those lines that I can be helpful with the discussion with this morning, I'd be happy to do. Thank you.